The morning light should have felt gentle, but it didn't. It pierced through the half-drawn curtains like a reminder that the world outside kept spinning, indifferent to the fact that mine had stopped. I stood by the window, watching the hearse pull into the driveway. The sleek black vehicle looked foreign against the white lilies arranged by the gate. Someone had thought the flowers would make things look peaceful. They didn't. Nothing could. Today was my daughter Lily's funeral. My hands trembled as I tried to button my black blouse. The air felt too thick to breathe. My husband, Mark, moved quietly behind me, fixing his tie with that same hollow stillness that had filled our house ever since the hospital. He didn't speak. Neither did I. Words had become pointless. There was nothing left to say that didn't end in silence or tears. On the dresser, next to a framed photo of Lily, my phone buzzed. For a second, I thought it might be someone from the funeral home confirming the timing. I picked it up and froze. Carla. Hey, just letting you know I've already booked the hall for Emma's Suite 16, same Saturday. I can't move it. Hope that's okay. I reread the message, waiting for my mind to make sense of it. Saturday? The same Saturday that the funeral had been planned for weeks? Surely she meant another date. Surely she couldn't be that thoughtless. But when I scrolled up, I saw our earlier messages. The one where I told her about the service, the burial, the reception afterward. She had seen it. She knew I felt my stomach twist. Mark noticed my expression and asked, "What happened?" I handed him the phone. He read it, his jaw tightening. She's joking, right? But Carla never joked about plans. She was the type who sent reminder texts days before birthdays, who triple-checked reservations for brunch. This wasn't an accident. The rest of the morning moved in slow motion. I kept moving, checking the flowers, answering condolence messages, arranging Lily's favorite white dress inside the coffin. I kept waiting for Carla to call back, to say, "I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking." She didn't. When the guests began arriving, the house filled with quiet murmurs and the rustle of black clothes. I smiled politely, the kind of mechanical smile that hurts your cheeks. Everyone looked at me the way people look at a broken thing they don't know how to fix. My mother came over and hugged me tightly. "You're being so strong, sweetheart," she whispered. Her voice cracked. "Carla sends her love. She's really upset she can't make it." I pulled back slowly. "She can't make it?" "She has Emma's party today, honey. It's been planned for months." "Planned for months?" That was a lie. I'd just gotten the message this morning. I opened my mouth to say something, but I stopped myself. It wasn't worth it. Not now. Not today. When the service began, I stood near the front, staring at the small white casket surrounded by flowers. I remembered brushing Lily's hair that last morning before school, how she had begged for pigtails, how she had laughed when I tied them unevenly. She had been 8. Just 8. The pastor spoke softly, his words a blur of scripture and comfort that didn't touch me. My attention drifted to the sound of rain starting to fall outside, tapping against the windows. It felt fitting somehow. Mark squeezed my hand. I squeezed back, but my heart wasn't in it. My mind was still stuck on my sister. The audacity. The cruelty hidden beneath the word minor. Because that's what she had said when I first told her about the funeral plans days ago. "It's such a minor event, Anna. Don't let it consume you. You've got to move on." Minor event. How could the death of my only child be minor? After the service, as the pallbearers carried the small casket to the car, I followed behind with a numb steadiness that didn't feel like me. The rain had turned heavier, soaking through my black dress, but I didn't care. People offered umbrellas. I didn't take them. Let it fall. Let the sky cry if I couldn't. At the cemetery, when they lowered the coffin into the earth, I placed Lily's favorite stuffed bunny on top. Its ears were damp, its fur muddy, but it belonged with her. My throat burned as I whispered, "Sleep, my baby." Behind me, someone's phone rang, loud, cheerful, a pop song. The kind they play at birthday parties. The woman fumbled to silence it, apologizing profusely, but the sound had already pierced through the fragile moment. I closed my eyes and inhaled slowly. In that instant, It felt like the universe was mocking me, turning my daughter's final goodbye into background noise for someone else's celebration. When we got home, Mark went to lie down. I sat alone in the living room, staring at the framed photos on the wall. Lily's first steps, her missing front tooth, her school play costume. Another message from Carla appeared. Carla. Just checking in. Everything okay with the funeral? We'll send flowers later. Busy setting up for the party. Emma's so excited. My vision blurred. My fingers trembled over the screen, but I didn't reply. Not today. Not while Lily's toy still smelled faintly of her shampoo. That night, when the house fell silent, I walked into Lily's room. Her pink curtains fluttered in the wind from the slightly open window. Her bed was still unmade. The way she'd left it that morning, she never came back. I sat down, clutching the small pillow against my chest. Outside, fireworks went off, bright, crackling, distant. Carla's party. For the first time since the hospital, I let the tears come. Not just for Lily, but for everything I'd lost. The innocence. The family I thought would stand beside me. The sister I no longer recognized. The night whispered through the open window, carrying the echo of laughter from far away. And I realized, with painful clarity, that my grief was something I'd have to face alone. The morning after the funeral, the world felt wrong in the most ordinary ways. The sunlight came in too bright, the coffee too bitter, the air too still. It was as though everything outside my house had forgotten to grieve. The flowers from the service were still scattered around the living room, some already wilting, their sweet scent turning heavy and nauseating. Mark had gone back to work early. He said he needed the distraction, that staying home only made him see the spaces where Lily used to be. I didn't argue. Everyone grieves differently. But for me, the house had become both a tomb and a memory. Every room whispering her name. I sat on the couch with my phone in my lap, staring at Carla's unread message from the night before. I hadn't replied, and part of me wanted to delete it, to pretend she didn't exist. But another part, the one still desperate for understanding, wanted to hear her voice. To ask how she could call her niece's funeral a minor event and then throw a party hours later. I called her. She picked up on the second ring. Anna, hey, I was just about to call you. Her voice was light, almost cheerful. I could hear chatter in the background, dishes clinking, laughter, the sound of a life untouched by grief. I swallowed hard. Carla, you knew the funeral was on Saturday. I did, she said, as if confirming the time for a lunch reservation. But honey, Emma's Sweet 16 only comes once. We'd already booked the venue, the caterers, the DJ. I couldn't cancel everything. You understand, right? I stared at the floor, gripping the phone tighter. Understand? My daughter's funeral and your party were on the same day, Carla. The same day. There was a pause, followed by a sigh. Look, I know you're going through a hard time, but you can't expect the whole world to stop. Lily's gone, Anna. Nothing we do changes that. You have to let people live their lives. Her words hit like a slap. I pressed a hand to my mouth, trying to keep my voice steady. She was your niece. She loved you. You couldn't even show up to say goodbye. Carla's tone hardened. And you can't keep guilt-tripping everyone forever. We all deal with loss differently. You need to move forward. The line went quiet after that. I didn't even remember hanging up. I just remember staring at my reflection in the black screen of the phone, realizing that something inside me had snapped. Not the grief, that had already hollowed me out. This was something colder. Something final. That night, I sat with my mother over tea. She had stopped by to check on me, but I could tell by her nervous glances that she was here to smooth things over. That's what she always did. Pretend cracks in the family weren't there. Sweetheart, she began softly, stirring her tea though she hadn't added sugar. Carla feels awful. She didn't mean for it to seem disrespectful. I stared at her. She threw a party while her niece was being buried. How is that not disrespectful? Mom sighed. She just didn't think it through. She's been under pressure with Emma's school, the new job. She called Lily's funeral a minor event. I interrupted, my voice shaking. Is that what we call a child's death now? Minor? Her eyes filled with something that looked like pity. You're in pain, honey. You're seeing things harsher than they are. I couldn't breathe for a moment. My mother's words wrapped around my chest like chains. For them, my grief was an inconvenience, something they wanted to tidy up, like clutter on the floor. When she left, I sat in the dark, surrounded by the silence of a house that still felt too full of Lily's laughter. I pulled out old photos, Lily's messy hair, her missing teeth, the day she learned to ride her bike. Carla was in some of those pictures too, smiling beside her. But that smile, the one that used to mean family, now felt like a wound. Over the next few days, I noticed the shift in the family group chat. Fewer people checked on me. Some messages even sounded like subtle reprimands. Aunt May, you shouldn't hold grudges, Anna. Lily wouldn't want that. Mom, try to forgive. Family is all we have left. Carla, heart emoji reaction to Mom's text. I stopped replying altogether. When I finally ventured outside, it was to the grocery store, a place that used to feel mindless and comforting. But even there, I ran into one of Carla's friends, smiling too brightly. Oh, Anna, I saw the pictures from Emma's party. Wasn't it lovely? Something in me cracked open. I wouldn't know, I said, my voice trembling but sharp. I was at my daughter's funeral. Her smile vanished. She muttered an awkward apology and backed away, but it was too late. The humiliation burned through me. My sister hadn't just been cruel privately. She'd erased Lily's memory publicly. That night, when I got home, I opened social media out of some twisted need to see it for myself. I shouldn't have. Carla had posted an album, Emma's Sweet 16, A Day to Remember, hundreds of likes, comments full of love. And there, buried in the feed between photos of balloons and cake, was a single comment from my mother. So proud of you both. Such a beautiful day. I stared at that line until my hands went cold. The day that had broken me was a beautiful day for them. I didn't cry this time. I just closed the app, locked the phone, and whispered into the quiet. Okay, I see you all now. It was the moment grief stopped being my weakness and started becoming something else. Something sharper, heavier. Something I'd soon have to use. The sky was the color of bruised metal on the morning of Lily's funeral. Even the clouds seemed heavy, sagging low as if they shared my grief. The rain hadn't stopped since dawn, turning the grass into slick patches of mud. I remember thinking that maybe the heavens were weeping because I couldn't anymore. Mark held the umbrella over us as we stood before the small white coffin. My shoes were soaked through, my hair plastered against my face, but none of that mattered. The only thing that existed was the unbearable stillness of that moment, the finality of lowering my child into the earth. The priest's voice wavered through the downpour, his words merging with the soft thud of raindrops on the coffin. We commit her spirit to the heavens. He kept speaking, but I couldn't hear him anymore. My eyes were locked on the patch of earth that would soon cover everything I had loved most in this world. Lily's favorite stuffed bunny lay on top of the casket, its once pink fur now streaked with brown. I had to force myself not to reach out and snatch it back. The idea of her being alone, even with that toy, broke something inside me all over again. When it was over, people came up to offer condolences, words that felt rehearsed, hollow, and painfully distant. She's in a better place. God has a plan. No one knew what to say, really. I didn't blame them. There are no words for the kind of silence a child leaves behind. Then, through the hum of umbrellas and murmurs, I saw my phone light up in Mark's pocket. A notification flashed briefly. Carla posted a new story. My chest tightened. Mark must have noticed because he quickly looked away, muttering, "Ignore it." but I couldn't. Some part of me, the part that still couldn't believe my sister had gone through with her party, needed to see. As people started walking toward their cars, I pulled the phone from his hand, my fingers trembling. I opened the story. It was a video. Bright lights, laughter, the shimmer of a chandelier. Carla's daughter Emma stood in the center of a decorated hall, wearing a glittering silver dress, blowing out 16 candles while everyone cheered. "Best day ever!" someone shouted from behind the camera. Music pulsed through the speakers, pop songs, clapping, confetti. And then I heard Carla's voice, laughing, joyful, alive. I stared at the screen, rain running down my cheeks, mixing with something hotter, heavier, rage. My sister hadn't just ignored my pain. She'd broadcast her joy to the world while I was burying my child. The image of that glowing, smiling room played in my mind even as we left the cemetery. Every flash of lightning seemed to echo the strobe lights from the party. Every raindrop sounded like laughter I couldn't escape. At home, I tried to sit quietly, to breathe, to tell myself to let it go. But when I logged onto Facebook later that evening, my feed was flooded. Photos. Dozens of them. Carla in her red dress, holding a champagne glass. Emma posing with friends under a neon sign that said "Forever Sweet." Hashtags: Proud Mom, Unforgettable Night, Family Love, and in the comments, faces I recognized: Aunt May, Uncle Robert. Even my own mother, Mom, "You outdid yourself, Carla." So happy for Emma. Such a magical day. Carla, "Thank you, Mom." We needed some joy in the family after such a heavy week. A heavy week. That's what she called it. I stared at the words until they blurred. Then I scrolled down further and froze. One of the tagged guests had posted a group selfie from the party. In the background, I saw two faces I'd expected to see at the funeral that morning. Our cousins, Emma and Tom. They hadn't even called to say they couldn't make it. I felt something inside me go completely still. Mark came in quietly and saw me staring at the screen. He hesitated before saying, "Please, Anna, stop looking. It's just going to hurt more." I turned to him, my voice hollow. "It's not just hurt anymore. It's disrespect. It's erasure." He sat beside me, silent. He didn't argue because he knew I was right. That night, as I lay in bed, I could still hear faint echoes of music from somewhere in the neighborhood. I didn't know if it was real or if my mind was tricking me, but every note felt like another nail hammered into the coffin of what was left of my family. I dreamed of Lily that night. She was standing in the garden, wearing her yellow raincoat, smiling. When I reached for her, she whispered, "It's okay, Mommy. Don't cry for me." But behind her, I could see flashing lights, laughter, and silhouettes dancing. I woke up sobbing into the dark. The next morning, I received a message from Carla. "Carla, hey, saw your post about Lily's foundation idea. That's sweet. Maybe next time we can plan things so they don't clash? Love you." I stared at the screen until my vision went blurry. She still didn't get it. Or maybe she did, and didn't care. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my notebook and wrote Lily's name at the top of a blank page. Then, beneath it, I wrote, "You were the light they tried to ignore. But I'll make sure they never can again." I closed the book, my hands shaking but my heart strangely steady. That was the moment the grief inside me began to shift, harden, into something that could no longer be silenced. That was the day I stopped being the sister who begged for understanding, and started becoming the mother who would make the world remember. The days after the funeral blurred together into a strange, colorless haze. Grief has a way of distorting time. Mornings bled into evenings, and I couldn't tell one from the other. The house still smelled faintly of lilies and candle wax, the remnants of the funeral service that no one had helped me clean up. Every corner whispered Lily's name. Every sound felt too loud or too quiet. Mark tried to get me to eat, to rest, to step outside. But I couldn't. The outside world had moved on. My family had moved on. My sister had moved on. And somewhere inside me, something was beginning to shift. It wasn't healing, and not yet. It was something sharper, heavier. I stopped answering calls. My phone buzzed constantly with well-meaning messages from people who didn't know what to say. Stay strong. Time heals all wounds. But buried between those empty condolences were the ones that stung. Carla. I really think you're overreacting, Anna. I didn't mean to hurt you. Can we just let it go? Mom, you and your sister both lost someone. Don't make this harder on everyone. Everyone. The word echoed in my head. Everyone, except Lily, except me. For 2 weeks I stayed quiet. I told myself silence was strength, that disengaging was the mature thing to do. But every time I passed Lily's room, every time I saw the balloons from Carla's party still trending on social media, the silence inside me began to burn. Then one night, I saw a post from my mother. She had shared one of Carla's photos again, Emma holding her birthday cake, captioned, "So proud of my beautiful granddaughter. Family is everything. Family is everything." That was the night something inside me broke open. The next morning, I got in my car and drove. I didn't tell Mark where I was going. I didn't even plan what I would say. All I knew was that I couldn't let this fester in the dark anymore. I had to face it, face her. Carla lived only 15 minutes away, but the drive felt like crossing a continent. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. By the time I pulled into her driveway, my heartbeat was a drum inside my ears. Her house was loud. I could hear music playing from inside, pop songs, laughter, the same kind of hollow cheer that had filled her party videos. Through the window, I saw remnants of the celebration. Gold balloons half deflated, a banner that still read, "Happy 16th." Draped across the living room, I rang the bell. Carla opened the door, surprised but smiling. "Anna! Oh my God, I was just thinking of you." Her voice, that light, chirpy tone she used whenever she wanted to pretend everything was fine, snapped something in me. "Were you?" I asked quietly. She blinked, her smile faltering. "Of course. How are you feeling?" "How am I feeling?" I stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. The house smelled like perfume and frosting. "You really want to ask me that?" Carla frowned. "Anna, I know you're angry, but this isn't healthy." I tried to apologize. "No," I said, my voice low. "You tried to justify." She sighed, folding her arms. "You can't expect everyone to stop their lives because of what happened." Emma had been planning her party for months. She planned it a week after Lily went into the hospital. I snapped. "And you knew the date of the funeral. You chose to celebrate while I was burying my child." Carla rolled her eyes, exhaling sharply. "You're twisting things. You think you're the only one in pain? You think you're the only mother who struggles?" "I've had my own problems, Anna. I just chose not to let them consume me." Her words were knives. Every syllable scraped against my chest. I stood there shaking, not from sadness but from disbelief. Then I saw Emma coming down the stairs, phone in hand, earbuds in. She stopped halfway when she saw me. "Hey, Aunt Anna," she said softly, uncertain. I looked at her, this bright, beautiful teenager, and for a brief, painful second, I saw Lily's face in hers. I swallowed the lump in my throat and managed a nod. "Hi, sweetheart." Carla placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Go finish your homework, Em." When Emma disappeared upstairs, I turned back to my sister. The air between us felt electric, charged with all the words we'd never said. "You made sure no one would remember Lily that day," I said, my voice trembling but steady. "You took the only day I had to honor her and turned it into your celebration. And now you stand here and call me dramatic?" Carla's jaw clenched. "You're not being rational. You're turning grief into drama." I looked at her, the sister I'd grown up with, shared secrets with, defended 1,000 times, and I realized I didn't know her anymore. Maybe I never had. For a long moment, I said nothing. Then quietly, I whispered the words that had been burning in my chest since the funeral. "You'll remember her now, Carla, even if no one else does." I turned and walked out before she could respond. The air outside was cold, sharp, cleansing. For the first time since Lily died, I felt something resembling clarity. Driving home, the world looked different. The grief was still there, but beneath it was something else. A purpose I couldn't yet name. That night I sat by Lily's photo and lit a candle. The flame flickered weakly at first, then steadied. I stared at it and said aloud, "They forgot you, baby. But I never will. I'll make sure the world knows who you were." The silence that followed wasn't empty anymore. It was full of promise, full of fire. The morning after I left Carla's house, something inside me felt different. Not lighter, grief doesn't vanish like that, but clearer. Like the fog that had blurred everything since Lily's death had finally begun to thin. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and opened my notebook. The same one where I'd written Lily's name on the first page weeks ago. I stared at it for a long time, then slowly began to write beneath it. Lily's Light, a place for families who've lost their children. A place where grief isn't ignored, rushed, or minimized. The idea came from nowhere and everywhere all at once. I didn't know how I would fund it, or where to begin, but I knew why. No parent should ever feel as unseen, as dismissed as I had. I wanted to create something that would make Lily's name mean hope, not tragedy. For the first time in months, I had a reason to get out of bed. Mark watched quietly as I started making calls. Local charities, community centers, even the church that had hosted Lily's service. Most of them didn't know what to say to a grieving mother with a wild new idea, but a few listened. One woman, a social worker named Dana, said, "You're not crazy, Anna. You're healing through purpose. Let's build this." Those words stuck with me. Healing through purpose. Days turned into weeks, and our living room slowly transformed into a planning hub. Papers, flyers, donation lists, and Lily's photos covered every surface. I began reaching out to parents who had lost children, people I'd met online in grief forums. Some couldn't talk about it yet. Others cried through every call, but one by one, they joined me. By the end of that month, Lily's Light Foundation had its first gathering, in the small community hall next to the library. Only 8 people showed up, but when they began sharing their stories, the room filled with something powerful. It wasn't joy, not exactly. It was connection. Raw, painful, beautiful connection. I stood at the front, hands trembling, and told them about Lily. About the way she loved coloring books and bubble tea, how she used to tuck her stuffed bunny beside her before bed, how she would giggle whenever rain hit the windows. I told them about the funeral, about the silence, about my sister's cruelty, not to shame her, but to explain why this mattered. When I finished, no one clapped. No one needed to. A woman in the back simply whispered, "She'd be proud of you." And for the first time since Lily's heart stopped beating, I believed it. A few days later, word began to spread. Local news picked up the story. Mother turns grief into hope, launches foundation in daughter's memory. The article included a photo of me beside Lily's portrait. It was supposed to be about healing, but social media twisted it into something else. The comments poured in. Most were kind. Some weren't. And then came Carla. Carla, comment. "I wish Anna had found a healthier outlet sooner. Grief can make people dramatic." The words made my blood run cold. She still hadn't changed, still couldn't let me have a moment that wasn't about her, but something unexpected happened next. People started replying to her, strangers, friends, even some of our own. Relatives, Sarah J. Dramatic? She lost her child. You threw a party the day of the funeral. Tom R. I was at that party, Carla. I didn't know it was the same day until now. That's awful. Megan T. You owe your sister an apology, not comments like this. Within hours, the comment section turned into a storm. Carla deleted her post, but the screenshots kept circulating. For the first time, people saw her for who she was. I didn't gloat. I didn't even reply. But that night, as I sat by Lily's candle, I whispered, "You see, baby? The truth always finds its way. Weeks later, Carla showed up at my doorstep. Her eyes were red, her mascara smudged. She looked smaller somehow, deflated. "I didn't come to fight," she said quietly. I didn't think it would go that far." I stared at her for a long time. I should have felt satisfaction, but I didn't. I only felt tired. "I didn't make it go that far, Carla," I said softly. "You did," she nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I know." For a brief moment, I saw the sister I used to know, the one who shared my bed during thunderstorms when we were kids, who used to braid my hair before school. I almost reached out to hug her. Almost. But some distances can't be crossed anymore. She left quietly, and I didn't watch her go. 2 months later, Lily's light had grown beyond anything I'd imagined. We had volunteers, donations, even a website. Parents from across the state were reaching out, sharing their stories, sending photos of candle-lit vigils in their children's names. Sometimes, at night, I'd walk through Lily's room, still untouched, and talk to her. I'd tell her how her name was helping people, how her light was reaching places I never could. And each time I did, the room felt a little less empty. Grief hadn't left me. It never would. But I'd learned to build something beautiful beside it, and for the first time since that terrible day, I could finally smile without guilt. It was a gray morning in early spring, the kind of morning that always reminded me of Lily. Soft light, gentle drizzle, the faint smell of earth waking up again. The anniversary of her passing was only a day away, and I had spent the entire night thinking of what to do this year. No ceremony. No big gathering. Just me, a pen, and a piece of paper. I sat at my kitchen table, the same place where I'd once scribbled Lily's light into my notebook, and began to write her a letter. "My dearest Lily, it's been 1 year since I last held you. 1 year since the world went quiet for me. But I want you to know that quiet didn't last forever. You taught me how to listen for something softer. Hope." I paused, wiping my eyes, the ink smudging slightly. Every line I wrote carried both pain and peace. It wasn't just a goodbye. It was everything I'd wanted to tell her but never could. "You've given people light, my darling. Parents who thought they'd never smile again now do, because of you. Your name has become a home for broken hearts. I wish you could see what your little hands have built." I smiled through my tears, picturing her in her favorite yellow dress, the one she wore when she danced in the kitchen while I cooked. For the first time, the memory didn't stab me. It wrapped around me like warmth. When I finished, I folded the letter carefully and sealed it in an envelope. Then I drove to the lake, our lake, the one where Lily used to feed the ducks every Sunday after church. The water was calm, glassy. I stood by the edge and whispered, "You were never a minor event, baby. You were everything." I placed the letter in a tiny wooden box and let it float out onto the water. It drifted slowly, the ripples spreading like rings of memory. I stayed until it disappeared, until the horizon blurred into silver mist, and for the first time, I didn't cry out of sorrow. I cried out of gratitude. When I returned home, I found an envelope waiting on my porch. There was no name on the front, only my address, scrawled in a handwriting I instantly recognized. Carla's. I hesitated before opening it. A part of me didn't want to, but curiosity, and maybe some sliver of old sisterly love, made me tear it open. Inside was a short note. "Anna, I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want you to know I see what you've done, and I'm proud of you. I've been volunteering with one of the grief groups you started in another town. You were right, helping others heal something. I'm sorry it took losing so much to understand that. I know I can't undo what I said, or that day, but I wanted to tell you that I think of Lily often. She was beautiful. Carla." I read it 3 times before setting it down. I didn't feel the old rush of anger or even bitterness. I felt something quieter, something that surprised me. Relief. Maybe some people never become what we need them to be. But sometimes they still grow. I didn't call her. I didn't write back. I just placed her letter in Lily's keepsake box, next to the hospital bracelet, the first drawing Lily ever made. And now, my goodbye letter. Months passed, and Lily's Light Foundation continued to grow. We opened a small center downtown, painted in Lily's favorite shade of yellow. The front wall held a mural of children holding lanterns, their light rising into a soft pink sky. Above it, in delicate gold letters, it read, "Grief doesn't end love." Parents came from everywhere, mothers, fathers, grandparents. Some came broken, barely able to speak. Others came to volunteer, to share stories, to find peace. And every time I walked through those doors, I could feel Lily there, in the laughter of the children playing in the art room, in the soft piano music that played in the lobby, in the warmth of every hug given between strangers. Grief had carved a hollow in me, but love had filled it again. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough. One evening, as the sun set behind the windows of the center, painting the room gold, I lit a small candle under Lily's photo, a tradition I'd kept alive. I whispered, "You're still here, my love. In every parent we help, in every smile you bring back." And though the world stayed quiet, I could almost hear her voice, faint and sweet, echoing somewhere deep inside. "I'm proud of you. Mommy!" The tears came again, soft this time, not from pain, but from peace. I turned off the lights, leaving the candle burning beside her picture. The flame flickered, steady and bright, a little light that refused to die. And as I stepped outside into the cool night air, I realized, maybe grief doesn't end. But neither does love.